Hello, a gentleman, lady. How's everybody doing this evening?
We doing fine, champ. You ready for next week?
Ready? Yeah. I'm ready.
And what's going on, y'all? Happy Friday to y'all. This is another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles. It's your man, the Guru. It's Friday morning. It is cold in here in Missouri. And I just can't figure out why it's so cold. Like, who said it was, why it had to be this cold? All right, so let's get into it. I dropped off episode 7 when Strawberry and I finally got married. After all the torment, after all the back and forth, we finally got married in 2003. Now, mind you, this is my second marriage. Okay. Gosh. Who would have never thought? There's people that's been married, once and been married for 50 years. Here I am. I've been married twice in less than 5. It's crazy. Anywho, so pretty much for 2003, it was pretty much an uneventful situation, right? But I want to speak to the mental mindset that I had while I was married to her. I can't really explain it. I think it's a lot of things that it's a place that a lot of men be still, and I was in this constant state of confusion. Like, I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be a husband, but I just did not know how, right? I just did not know how. And I tried, though. We live paycheck to paycheck. We barely paid our rent. We gotta tell you what we did do, though. Even in those dark times, we stuck close, and we kept an eye on Jesus. We went to church. We had a great church that we went to. And so the pastor of that church and the first lady of that church that we went to are still friends of mine today, many moons later. So at this moment, I was manipulating some gun by this time, right? So I'm just kind of, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. You heard that statement before, right? So let's just say, for example, I had a light bill due or rent was due even. Our church had an emergency fund that that members could use to, get a bill paid here, get a bill paid there, groceries maybe, whatever. And I burnt that thing up. You hear me? You know what I'm saying? Because it was just it was a whole thing of manipulation. Like, I know the church is going to come through, help brother out. After I bought those Jordans that I really didn't need, after I spent, $200 on something reckless that I didn't need, and it took out of the mouths of my children's and my wife's mouths because I wanted it. The level, I'm telling you, I gotta tell y'all something. The level of selfish I was on back in these days was just unimaginable, right? And it was a struggle, and I had to work through it. You know what I'm saying? And I'll tell anybody, and I admit it to today, and my wife will tell you. There's a level of selfish style that I live on now, right? But nothing like back in that day, because that was terrible. That was just the selfishness back in those days was just terrible, just damn near criminal. That's how bad it was. So we went through, and I was still, I was in this place. I might have been, 28. Just by this time, 29, and I struggled with the petty excuse or the petty justification of do I still got it? As a man, I struggle with that. Do I still got it? just in case me and her break up. Can I go out here and still get me somebody on this, pick up somebody? When I tell you that was the dumbest mentality, the dumbest thing I probably could have ever done was that. Right? So I got in that mode and I started flirting. I don't recall cheating on her. But at the same time, I do recall being in situations where I shouldn't have been. Being married to her, lying to her, things of this nature, and was like, telling her that I was working overtime when I was at some girl's house, spending the night, whatever. It got that bad. And that's the life I lived. That was the life I lived. If I could be completely honest with y'all, that was the life I lived. And then, there was some situations where I should have been dead, like for real. Like some of these women that I was cheating on my wife with, they had these big old boyfriends and husbands and such. One in particular, I can't remember her name, but she had this baby daddy that was just crazy, right? And he was one of those dudes where he didn't want her, but he also didn't want her to have anybody else. It's one of those, if I can't have you, nobody else can have you type of dudes. And so, me and her, we was dating or messing around or what have you, right? And then one day he came over there was one night I was spending the night at her house. Excuse me. And he just popped up like, I know there's a dude in here. I know there's a dude in here. I mean, it was like that. And I'm like, Lord, if you ever get me out of here, I ain't doing this no more. And I didn't. But I made a lot of mistakes with my second wife. All because it was just stupid mindsets. I mean, it wasn't even necessarily she did anything to me because she didn't. She didn't do a thing to me. She rode for me. Now, if you guys have been following the story, man, she rode for me. I left her in Chicago, and she still got on a bus and brought her kids to be with me. So I got my second wife. I don't owe her nothing. I mean, she owes me nothing. I did everything to her. But I will tell you a story, and this is this was the downfall of me and Strawberry after all the stuff that me and her had been through. We had gotten to, now mind you, this has been after years of financial torment, emotional torment, Fatal Friday. And that's another story that I'm going to tell you about after this story, because it involves that story. Fatal Friday is a story that involves Minnie Pearl. I told you in the last episode she makes one more appearance before she's done, right? So this story right here, yeah. When I think about it and look back on it, I really feel shame when I tell this part of the story, because I don't think I've told it in any of the versions of this podcast. But I'm gonna tell it in this one because I think it's important. So we were going. My best friend, I think a couple of episodes back, I told you how my best friend Sharon, and he had a church, that he started, and the church was called the House of Restoration in Charlotte. So anybody, and it's still up and going. He's still pastor of that church. He is now Apostle Barnett, and he is just an amazing dude. And we talked like a couple weeks ago after I first did the episode. And I told him, I said, I told him when I did the episode, I said, I may or may not have used your name in the podcast. He was like, man, I don't care. As long as he helps somebody. So it was, so he had a church, and he started that church in the garage of his house. And Sharon has always lived in ginormous houses because that's just who he is. And then, it was him, his wife, and he had, I think, 3 or 4 kids. Zion, Josh, Jazzy, and then Quayshawn. So it's the 4 kids. So he's always lived in big houses. And now my wife and I, we had 3 kids. And we lived across the way, across the street, but in our own big house. But we were just so financially unstable to where it was ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? And for many moons I blamed her. Like, it's your fault that we broke. You know what I'm saying? But all the while it was me. It was my fault that we were broke. But one of the biggest stories with Strawberry, and we'll get into it. Let me get into it, okay? Because I think I'm sensing a level of anxiety now. So Sharon had a church, and he was sharing a building with another church. So the arrangement was set up like this: the church, the church that owned the building, they had services in the morning. He split the church up, and we had services in the afternoon. So we didn't go into service until like 1. When the other church got out, they would leave us the building, and we would just take over the building and whatever. There was a young lady that was that went to the first church, or the first services. They kind of caught my eye, and yeah. Not gonna call her name. I can't even give her a name. You know what? Let me give her a name real quick. Let's see. Bright Eyes. That's what I'll give her, Bright Eyes, because she had really light hazel eyes, right? So I saw her. It was just kind of a in passing type of deal. I think we caught eyes, whatever. But again, I'm married. I'm trying to stay on the straight and narrow, right? So Bright Eyes decided to leave the ministry that she was in and join Sharon's ministry, right? And so, excuse me. So she started coming to our church. So I saw her every Sunday, right? So it was difficult. It was hard to not, see something. Now, mind you, I'm still married. And by this time, she has actually befriended the both of us. Right. All right. So case in point, this is what happened. Me and my wife got evicted from the house that we were living in. And we didn't have anywhere to go. So we ended up packing up the family and moving in with Sharon in his big house. So we moved in with Sharon. We stepped in his garage. My second wife helped her raise his kids, tutor his kids. We lived in it. Now, the whole time, Bright Eyes would come up to the house all the time because she was just put that close to the ministry, or whether or not she was getting close to me, I don't know. But that's what she did. So I saw a lot of her, and I was like, okay, I can't. I'm really struggling. But instead of telling somebody I was struggling, I internalized it, right? And then I figured it would go away. I figured it would be like, you know what? It's a passing. It's just like, it's this crush type deal. Boom, and it just never went away. So long story short, she called me. Like I said, we were close. We were, as a unit, my second wife and I, and Bright Eyes and her husband, she was married and she had 3 kids. We were close though as a family. So we actually went out to this place in Charlotte called, at the time it was called Hams. It was a restaurant type, pool hall type situation, kind of like a Dave and Buster's almost. Like that's kind of how it was. And so we went out as a unit, like her husband, her, the kids, me, my wife, the kids. We all went out together. The whole time, we dig on each other, right? The whole time we digging on each other, you hear me? So I didn't think anything of that either. It was just, I'm hoping this goes away. Right? Never did. Now this is where the shameful part comes in. She called me one Saturday, and she says, "Hey, Terry, hey, what you doing tonight?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna go home and I think me and Strawberry doing laundry, tonight or whatever. We just kind of chilling as family. She was like, huh. She said, I am hungry. I wish we could hang out, go get some wings or something. I said, well, I'm sure she would. I said, this is what I said. And I remember it. I don't know why I remember it so, because it happened so long ago. And she says, I'd like to go get some wings or something. And I was like, sure. I said, Strawberry would love that. Let's get the kids together. Let's go get. She said, no. I don't want the family. I just want you. I said, say what now? Just saying so, And she says, no, I just want it to just be me and you. I don't want to be around kids. None of that. I just want to be me and you. Now, if you heard what I said a little while ago, the kid was struggling. The kid was struggling, like, for real. I should have said no and been done with it. But curiosity got the best of me. I said, okay. I said, I'll meet you at 7:30 after I got off mine. I was working. I said, after I get off work, I'll go ahead and meet you there, at Hams, the same place. So I get there, and it's 8:30, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, somewhere. And I get in there. It's dark. Hams had a ambassadors, as it were, and it was dark with the music playing. Yeah, didn't think anything of it. So we sat down, and we had a meal. Now we sat on the same side of the booth. Now it wasn't like we was sitting across from each other. Well, we did it first, and then she moved over to my side of the booth. So our food came, we ate, we pay, we leave. So her car is parked in the front of the building. My car is parked kind of in the middle of the parking lot. And so I walk her to her car, being a gentleman, right? So she sticks her head in the car, getting ready to put her stuff in there so she can, get ready to go. She proceeds to do that, stands back up, looks at me, and was like, "Hey, you have a good night." And she kind of gave me this smoldering grin thing. I can't even pronounce it. I can't even describe it. But it was like the eyes were glistening. The street light just hit her just right. It's crazy. Next thing I know, guys, I was kissing her, and the level of guilt that I felt in that moment, it's like, why did I kiss her? But I couldn't stop myself from kissing her. It's like I had an out of body experience. Like, I knew I was kissing her, but I didn't think I was kissing her. Right. So we had this long embrace, this long kiss right there in the parking lot, and that was it. I mean, it was kind of but it left such a lasting impression. I get in my car, she leaves. I get in my car, I leave. She leaves. But at every instance that we were together, it was awkward. It was extremely, extremely awkward, because it was like, I kissed this girl, and I think the fact that I'm attracted to her doesn't help that, right? For those of you guys that may or may not have mentioned, I mean, I'm a boob guy. I love a boob guy, and she had massive, and then she would wear certain outfits just for me to catch my eye. Like, she knew, and that's been my struggle for years, though, to be truthful with you. But nonetheless, we just kept, we didn't do anything physical outside of the kiss for the first 2 months. Right. But it was on the ropes. We get stuff under wraps when we text each other, So again, we kind of went on. An instance happened maybe 2.5 months later, maybe 3. She calls me up. We go to Hams, but she was like, I don't want to eat. I want to just sit in the parking lot. And she was like, oh, that's sentimental value because this is where we had our first kiss. And I'm like, yeah, but you still married. I'm still married. So it's not a big thing, So we went to the parking lot and we just sat there like for an hour, maybe hour and a half. She was like, okay, I want some. I said, want some what? What I'm saying? I was naive, stupid, man. It was really awkward for me. Even though I enjoyed every second that we were together, it was extremely awkward at the same time. And you want it to yourself. You have to want it to yourself. How in the world does it feel good and be awkward at the same time? But that's one of those things like I just can't describe. Is what it was. It was like, oh my God, and then oh man at the same time. So, in this instance, that particular instance, we had our first sexual encounter in the parking lot. And it went downhill from there. It went downhill from there because it was, to me, it was just phenomenal. Okay. Now, before you sit there with your mouth agape, let me explain. like Kevin Hart. The reason why I thought it was okay to make love to this woman in the parking lot was because my wife had stopped. And she had stopped giving me any kind of play, any kind of, she had just stopped. But in the moment, that was my excuse. That was my justification. I'm going to sleep with her because my wife ain't sleeping with me. After looking at it 5-10 years later, it was like, oh. But the reason why she stopped doing that was because of me. See, that's the thing that happens with men, is that we ain't going to admit nothing. We ain't going to let it hit us until years later. Then by the time it's too late, you done destroy who you going to, who you're just was with. And so, like I said, it went downhill from there. I think, the L word got passed around. And no, I ain't talking about lunch. I'm talking about love, right? That word, it got passed around. She had a spirit of manipulation so hard on her to where she was like, yeah, she's sleeping with this other dude that I introduced her to. She's cheating on you. This is what she's telling me. So it was just justification. It just fed the fuel. It fed the inner horn dog. It fed that demonic, lustful, demon. It fed that. And as long as she kept doing it, I was game. I was all in it. The entire time that devil is destroying my house. Right? I just kept doing it. Why? Because it was gratification. Why? Because it felt good. It's easy to delve in something that feels good, but not realizing the destruction it's doing. When I tell you guys, while I was messing with this woman, being married to my wife, I was unemployed. We couldn't keep anything. My wife was working, but I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't find a job the entire time. And I want you to tell you, I want you to catch this, because this is where God intervened, right? And let me know I gotta stop doing this, right? We messed around for the totality of about a year and a half. Okay. Off and on. We would stop speaking to each other. Did that. Anyways, for the entire year and a half that we were messing around, I could not land a job. God said, and I remember vividly God saying to me, until you leave your pipe out of her, you're not getting anything. I'm not going to bless you with nothing. And he meant every syllable, right? Because I could not catch nothing, not even a gas station, not even a part-time gig, not even and Mickey D's hires everybody, but I could not get a Mickey D's gig. That's how bad it was. It wasn't until I said, I'm over. I can't do this no more. I'm done. Is where the door opened for me to get a job. As soon as I decided and stopped messing with her, God opened the door and let me get a job. Now, for those 2 months that me and her stopped messing around, I was good. I messed around and had a weak moment. that maybe the third month, I had a weak month. We got together. We slept together again, And God said, okay, he thought I was playing. And so the job that I had, I lost. And I'm telling y'all, that's sometimes that is how karma works. That is how God works. That's just what that is. And I'm telling you, I could not. And I just and then finally once and for all, there was many, many stories in between that, but that's too many chapters to get into. But there was so many different stories. There were so many things that happened. But when I decided I was done with that nonsense, I had to be done. Now, the moral of that story is a man the saying goes, a man does not miss his water until the well run dry. Right? Now, I done did all this nonsense, rambunctions, running around, sleeping with this woman, sneaking off to a whole vacation with this woman. We did a whole vacation weekend at the beach. Did this whole thing, right? And went down there, spent the whole weekend with this woman and all that. After all of that, not realizing how much destruction I caused, because my wife knew. My wife knew. And this is how that ended. I'm gonna end the episode on that. This is how. And then back in the days, those cell phones was just coming out. I mean, it was, they were fairly new, right? So my wife and I didn't have single cell phones. We had one cell phone that we shared between the two of us. And we got this cell phone. And so Bright Eyes had the number. So because we were all friends. We were all friends, right? So it wasn't nothing. So one day, I'm laying down. I take me a nap, whatever. And Bright Eyes texts the phone, but she's texting it to me on some other stuff. She's talking about, the love and why'd you leave me? And I was pregnant and I had an abortion, things of this nature. See, that's another part of the story that we didn't get into. Yeah, y'all caught that. She got pregnant and supposedly had an abortion. At least that's what she told me. That's neither here nor there, right? So just one day she texted the phone. And my wife at the time, she pretended to be me. So they had a whole 2-hour conversation, her thinking it was me. And next thing I know, and ain't nothing worse than getting shook out your sleep when you napping. That's what happened to me though. She straight shook me out of my sleep. And it's like, what the F is going on between you and Bright Eye? I'm like, what you mean? And she shows me, she runs the receipts. She's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. She said this, and this. What are you doing? I ain't doing nothing. But in the receipts, she's, plain as day. How could you leave me hanging? I was pregnant with your baby. Say, what now? I'm reading this and I'm like, I'm dying here. I'm dying. And she's like, I'm leaving. I want a divorce. I said, okay. Right? I mean, what else am I gonna say? I'm gonna say, oh no, don't go. She's lying. What am I supposed to say? Like legit. But but it still didn't. It still did not stop it from hurting to hear her say that. So I had to bite the bullet. She calls up her mom. She's like, "Hey, I'm coming home. This nigga down here cheating on me. With the somebody in the same circle. I can see if it was somebody outside the circle. But we were in the same circles. Now I got to face this woman. You done stuck with my man. No, I can't do that." She said, "I can't do it." So it was a whole. I think it was we I did beg her though to stay and let's work it out and this and that, and it just didn't come to fruition. Right. So she ended up moving a month later. She packed up because her big kids were already gone to spend the summer with their dad. So they were already in Illinois. And then she had her youngest at the house. So she packed up the Malibu. We had a 1998 Chevy Malibu. She packed that Malibu up and Brent rode up went to Illinois and left. Now, mind you, my selfish ass, I had unpacked up my stuff and moved to Greensboro. Because I was like, I had made the decision in my head, if you're going to leave, I'm not going to watch you leave. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm telling you, us men, man, we do stuff and we just think everything, and we right in every instance. And no. Definitely not right. But at the time, my justification was, you ain't finna, if you're going to leave, that's your business. But what I'm not finna get ready to do is watch you leave. I'm not going to do that. And so that's what happened. So with that, we're going to get in, that's going to be episode 10, but we're going to, I'm going to drop it off right there. She leaves, goes back to Illinois. I end up in Greensboro. That's a whole story all in itself. But we'll get into that in episode 10. Because that moment, I did a TikTok the other day. There's certain things or moments in time that are very crucial because it turns chapters in your book, right? And so with this particular instance, me moving, my wife leaving, divorce. Well, we didn't get divorced, but we left, and the whole meaning of changing the chapter. This is this moment, because I go move in with my best friend from high school. Like I said, that's a whole story all together. That's a whole nother story. For a different chapter, we'll get into that. I might get into that in episode 10. But she's gone. My downfall and my mental health goes right here. That's where it went. You want to know where your mental health takes a dip or a dive? For me, this is it. But we'll get into it in episode 10. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate you. If you have not yet, please share this podcast with your friends. If you think it's that good, please share with your friends. And download the podcast. It's not it's important that you guys listen, but also download the podcast as well. That way you won't miss it. Every time I upload an episode, you get notification. All right. But I'm out of here. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you on the flip. Peace.